The majority of people, when they see a super star destroyer, just assume that its role is to be a star destroyer, but bigger, and their thinking process goes a little further. There's nothing wrong with that. You watch the movie, see the ships, battles, and characters, and then you move on with your day. But this channel is called Starship Reviews for a reason. We don't just see a ship and appreciate it for the moment before moving on. We instead spend years agonizing over the tiny details of a given class and coming up with all manner of in-universe lore and headcanon to do with the ship and its role, background, and service. 'Cause it's a hobby. I mean, is it as useful as woodworking? Maybe not, but it's cheaper to watch a thing than it is to buy a saw. This is a terrible analogy. The typical thought when most people see a super star destroyer is that it essentially does what a normal star destroyer does, only on a larger scale. I've seen many people state that a super star destroyer is meant to act as flagship for fleets of smaller imperial ships, and that they are also weapons of terror designed to cow the populace of the galaxy into submission to the Empire. But these theories all run into the reality of the size of all known super star destroyer classes, and how much overkill these ships represent. Essentially, in most use cases, a ship that size is so large that you'd be better served just using more typical star destroyers. And even the Empire would find it difficult to justify using these massive ships in a majority of circumstances. That being said, I do think there are circumstances where something the size of a super star destroyer would be useful. Yes, the Executor would be overkill as a flagship for a typical Imperial fleet. But as the command ship for the naval forces assigned to an entire sector, I could see the ship making a lot of sense. Essentially a flying capital city. And yes, in most ship-to-ship engagements, or planetary assaults, a super star destroyer would be overkill. But in the event of a heavily defended core world revolting against the Empire, something like an Executor class would probably be very useful due to the amount of firepower it can bring. In essence, most tasks would be beneath the sheer magnitude of the capabilities of an SSD. But there are certain use cases where the ship's size and firepower would be very much appreciated. It's just a matter of scale. But I do think that the roles of Coreward Assault Ship and Sector Command Ship are what the Super Star Destroyer was really designed for. And here we enter into wild speculation on my part, though it has to be said that this is done with some basis on The Empire Strikes Back, specifically during the Falcon chase where Lord Vader pulls the Executor out of the asteroid belt to send a clear transmission signal to the Emperor, who had been waiting to contact him. This scene has convinced me that the real role of a Super Star Destroyer, the primary function of the ship in fact, is to act as a communications ship, carrying large holonet projectors to allow the Emperor a line of communication with the military forces of his empire wherever they are in the galaxy. Now, we do see that in Star Wars, real-time communications across thousands of light years is possible, and in fact, fairly mundane. But it's also likely that, and in Legends at least, we know that this is due to a sophisticated series of transmitters covering the galaxy, which allows such communications, no individual ship having a transmitter with sufficient range to allow it to message directly across the galaxy. While this system is well established by the time of the Empire, and would be placed under Imperial administration, I could see someone like Palpatine not trusting it for all communications and signals, fearing rebel backdoors to get access to his most important and secret orders. So what do you do if you're Palpatine in this situation? You want direct control over every aspect of your galaxy-spanning empire, and the dark side can only carry you so far. and you don't trust the technology of your day that's well established and proven. Well, of course, obviously, you put a HoloNet transceiver array into a starship which you can deploy anywhere to give you a secure line of communication to anywhere if you have a ship there. Of course, the resultant vessel would be massive, at which point it also makes sense to add in a bunch of weapons, hangars, troop embarking areas, and command facilities to allow the ships to effectively break through the defenses of even the strongest core world, to further secure your own power in the galaxy. Kind of two birds with one stone there. So this is not a totally airtight theory, and it's one which I don't think has had much mention anywhere in either Legends or the current Disney canon. But I just don't see a scenario where you build something the size of a Super Star Destroyer and it's just a normal Star Destroyer but scaled up. There's also the elephant in the room of the Supremacy, the roving capital shipyard of the First Order, which was hardly a Star Destroyer but scaled up. And this is actually what made the whole backstory of the ships being communications and siege vessels, in my mind, sort of coalesce. So I guess Last Jedi did give us something fairly useful, I guess? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's been a little while. I've had the pictures and the script for this done for quite a while, though I will say Microsoft Word was being very weird, and there were many paragraphs during this that were cloned inexplicably or would have weird sentences. So Microsoft, we gotta have a word, man, because that was confusing to read and edit on the fly. But yeah, I had this stuff done, but there's been various things that have kind of meant I had no time to record, but I have time now. So I have, and you're gonna get a video, hopefully. If you're watching this and listening to it by this point, you got a video, so good on you. Where do you go from there? That's an excellent ending.